Who's watching The Watchmen? We're watching The Watchmen. Hey everybody, what's going on? Eric here. We are here to discuss the HBO series The Watchmen again. In this one we're going to be talking about episode 3. She was killed by space junk. So that's what's coming up here. Bit of a double entendre there, guys. I am joined by Christian Estabrook over in San Francisco, California. Christian, how are you this evening?
Well, Eric, Tulsa's not Rome, and you're a federal agent, not the lone fucking ranger.
Nailed it.
That is the worst mask to pick. If you're gonna, if you get to be a mask for a day, or you think you're gonna be, why would you take that stupid Robin mask? It's the worst.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Didn't work out for Petey.
No. Chad Colt, Reedsburg, Wisconsin. Chad, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good to be here. Ready to talk some episode 3. I not to tip my hat, but I really liked this episode. I liked it so much that I watched it and then I immediately did a rewatch right after that. So this is the first episode I've watched twice.
All right, so this is We're Watching The Watchmen, where we talk about that series in depth. We will spoil everything up through episode 3 of the series. None of us watch the coming soon or what's next previews right after the episode. We all turn those off. So we like to make predictions and those kinds of things as well. But accuracy, not exactly a factor here. Contact the show, guys. You can get us on email, watchwatchmanpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram or Twitter @podwatchman, or please track us down on Facebook and like us over there. If you want to help out the show, please give us a star rating or a review in the podcast purveyor of your choice, whichever one you use. Please rate and review the show. That would help us out a lot. All right, so yes, episode 3 on tap this evening. She was killed by space junk. Probably the most understandable title, sort of, here.
I get
of
that
the 3.
one.
Yeah, that one I get. All right, so we like to make predictions, guys. Christian ponders. This week, I think we got a few, so that's cool. That's cool. So let's go back over those. Christian, you nailed the first one, man. You nailed the first one. Adrian Veidt indeed smashes a cake in this episode.
I fist pumped while watching the episode. I couldn't believe how nailing it was. Yeah. I was so pleased.
No room for misinterpretation on that one. Not so good on the last two. Valiant efforts, but there was no American Heroes Minuteman character matchup with any of the new current characters.
Not even close.
Yep. No Minutemen at all, which was pretty surprising to me. I didn't really think of it till after I watched it, but I was like, hey, wait, shit, there was no Minutemen thing. All right, so that didn't hit. And we did not start the episode with a flashback, and it certainly also wouldn't have been Looking Glass. So that was just the bonus that it was going to be the intro to the episode, but no Looking Glass flashback anyway. So
it's going to happen next episode.
You got one there, Christian, and that means a lot because, well, actually, I think we're going to start scoring next week because Chad's got 5 here. So it's hard to put that into the rules. But we got some exciting stat keeping and scoring that we're going to introduce for Christian Ponders. And that's probably going to start with our predictions on this show. So we'll get into that at the end when we make those predictions. But Chad, you got a couple yourself, man, I believe here. So you made 5 predictions.
Yeah, a couple of them were long-term, but yeah.
This one did not happen, or at least not yet. We don't know that the Abars took in the children because they had powers. So that's Not there yet.
Barely saw the kids.
Will not the Hooded Justice yet. So that's hasn't happened yet. Hey, we're hitting on the cake here, guys. 3 candles indeed, Chad.
There was 3. I was
candles.
when I saw that, I was like, that is amazing that just happened right there.
Yeah.
3 candles and a smashed cake.
Same scene, yep. I mean, I guess it was probably bound to be the same scene, but yeah.
Well,
cool.
It was quick.
Now this one, I don't know if this one would technically hit, but I'd probably give this one to you. It's not specifically what you said, but it's pretty close. Angela gets her car back. Her car is back.
Is that even? I don't think I can get it. I'll take a half a point. Are we even sure that's the same car though?
It's gotta be.
I mean, it's gotta be. The show really upped the weird quotient if just some random car fell out of the sky when we saw a different car go into space. This is one I thought about this a lot. Why did I think about this a lot? Probably not necessary, but I did, guys. And I was like, I don't think Chad is right, but the fact that the car came back as such a focal point,
that's
it's like I almost want to give it to him anyway, even though I don't think he's technically right. But it was like still a kind of a shocking moment to see Angela's car factor into the climax.
I'll take half. I'll take half of a fictitious point right now since we're not really scoring. So, but I mean, now I really got to go back and rewatch episode 2 just to see like, is that the same car? It's like for some reason I thought it was a different style, but it probably is the same one.
It's got to be. I mean, it's got to be
same car. Take my word, same car. And no good on the 5 yet, Chad. We don't know that Looking Glass is related to Rorschach or not.
I don't think he really is. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
And mine, nowhere to be seen. I called a triple ring of deception involving Cal, Jane, and Judd. Could happen. It's not there yet.
So, I mean, I guess we can... I don't know if we want to talk about that now or in the rundown, but your Cal suspicions, they didn't go anywhere, but those suspicions should still seem suspicious after episode 3, I want to say.
Yeah. Still sticking to my suspicion of him, but no
there's
progression.
One specific point that I was thinking about a lot. Why do I keep saying that? I thought about everything a lot. Literally everything about this show. I thought about it for large quantities of time. I'll bring it up when we get to the rundown.
All right. So overall thoughts on the episode. Chad, you loved it, so I'll come back to you at the end here and see if you have anything to add to what we say. I don't know if I loved it. It's... The first time through, I had a different read than the second time through. The first time through, I was kind of disappointed. Lori was such a jackass most of the episode, and it was pretty much focused on her, and I guess I was kind of weirded out by just the way she treated the people we've been hanging out with for the last couple of episodes. It rubbed me the wrong way the first time, but the second time it kind of fascinated me because they our quote-unquote heroes here have seemed, not great people, obviously, but they seem pretty unmatched and infallible and stuff. And it's interesting to see somebody just come in and dress them all down constantly. So it's definitely a different angle. It's a way different feel to an episode than we've had thus far. I mean, I guess we're only 3 in, so that's not hard to accomplish. But I'm more with it the second time through. Still, I don't know. I mean, there wasn't a ton last week either, but I don't know. This isn't my favorite episode right now. So that's where I'm at, Christian.
Yeah, so I like this. I don't think that any of these episodes have had big swings up or down. I think I'm way on board for all 3 episodes. The first one being the big surprise, and the next 2 kind of maintaining. This one I think is interesting because it does feature a suicide bomber, so it's hard to say straight face that this is the funnest episode, but I do think that holds true. I think this one is less of the I don't know, some of the dark KKK, real miserableist type stuff. This one seems a little bit lighter on its feet. And I think that has to do with Laurie's character, even though she is kind of a prick to all of our main characters and things like that. I kind of went for her, and I mean, we'll probably touch on this again as we break down the episode. But I mean, she's basically the comedian, right? I mean, how she kind of interacts with people, her tone, things like that. I mean, there's other elements to it, but that's kind of the mold that she seems to be fitting into. And there's another kind of mold that she fits into herself, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But sorry, okay, a little off color, a little blue humor. Oh, I did it again. All right, here we go. Let's get back on track.
I love it.
God damn it.
Keep going. Don't stop.
What was I even saying? Yeah, so she's the comedian, right? And I mean, if you guys remember the comedian, not the funnest guy to hang around with, despite his, name.
Not very funny, yeah.
not the funniest guy. But I don't know. I enjoyed following her along through the episode. I was trying to think in retrospect now, looking back on 3 episodes, because this really seems like a Laurie episode, like capital L Laurie episode. And I hadn't really thought of it in those terms. I guess the first episode would be the Judd episode, and then the last episode was an Angela episode. Like, I don't know if we're going to have, obviously we're touching back and forth on all these different subplots, but maybe you'll be able to line this up later down the road. Like, I'm anticipating a Looking Glass episode at some point. Maybe the episodes will kind of center more on one than the other, even though it is kind of an ensemble. But this one in particular, more so than the other two, really seemed like it focused on one character. She was the through line through the episode. We even had this, instead of the introduction with the historical stuff, we had this kind of long form joke that was told over the course of the entire episode. So, I mean, I really think that the enjoyment of this episode comes down to how you responded to the Laurie character. And, I think she's intentionally kind of grating in certain spots, but for the most part, I'm on board. So with that said, my prediction is going to be that Chad's a big Laurie fan. That's my Christian ponder is that we're going to find out if it's true right now.
Right now? We're going to do it right now? So, yeah, I enjoyed Laurie in this episode, and here's why, and here's what I found enjoying about it. Like reading the book, and I'm fresher on the book than you guys, having just finished it before we started doing all this. She was so just whiny all the time and like cried at everything and like literally just cried at everything. And I always like she's supposed to be the not superpowers, I guess, but the superhero that goes out, and she can, in the book, she kicks some butt. But now we see a different side of her, and I guess if she really is related to the comedian, being the daughter, it's kind of interesting for her to see her take that side. But we also see moments of her in this where she still has that vulnerability, that unsureness. I mean, she seems sure about everything she's doing when it comes to her job at the FBI. But some of the other things in life, she seems to be kind of hung up and still trying to figure it out. And that's really kind of the juxtaposition I like, and especially with Laurie Blake here. and I found her to be quite funny, everything except for her jokes, ironically. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get into some of that. I enjoyed the episode. I liked some of her wittiness, and that they, even though she was, I will agree with you, Eric, she was a straight up asshole to people. But it's kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm really curious on her motivations and how she got to where she is. Just the vindictiveness she has towards vigilantes.
And I wonder if it's a mask, with her lack of a better term. I wrote this down during one of that scene where, and they were talking about how masks save lives. And I find it very interesting that the police wear masks like the vigilantes, but the vigilantes aren't allowed to do that anymore. So it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition there.
I was curious about this up till this point too, so I'm glad they actually told us in this episode, it's pretty much just Tulsa or Oklahoma police that do that.
Yeah, do that. It's not everywhere,
So,
but they're trying to make it more.
All right, guys, so what do you say? Let's run it down. Now, I just want to do this rundown a little bit different in one regard. I think we're just going to talk about the phone call, quote unquote, all is one piece, except for the end. We'll talk about the end when it comes up in the rundown. But we start the episode with this thing that we keep going back to throughout the episode, where apparently, I don't know if there's multiple phone booths, blue phones or whatever around, but apparently there's at least one
you can call Mars,
where you can call and leave a message for Dr. Manhattan. I don't know why this exists. I don't, whatever, but Laurie's using it. Yeah, Laurie Blake, we remember as the Silk Spectre 30 years later, is calling Dr. Manhattan, and well, first she tells him the brick story, and then gets into this joke that she tells throughout the episode. It's pretty bad joke. I don't know. It's talking about basically how all the heroes she used to work with were, I don't know, imperfect in ways. Dan was just a pussy, basically, and so on and so forth. I don't know. The whole phone call thing kind of bored me. Kind of shows how she's trying to reestablish this connection with John or whatever. But Christian, how did you take the phone call overall? Cutting out the end part.
Cutting out the end meaning what happens after she hangs up?
Even the last section of the phone call.
Okay. Because, I mean, this basically this long form joke, I gotta say, I was way in on.
Really?
I think that watching it go along, I mean, you know, I watched this with my wife, my sister, my brother-in-law. We all have our Watchmen night here at my house. And I don't know, it was like a fun through line for the episode of like, all right, well, that one was about Night Owl. Okay, next is going to be, you know, are we going to get to Dr. Manhattan? Like, you know, who are we going to be talking about over the course of this joke? And I thought the punchline really worked, like once we finally got to it. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it was a little disorienting at first, trying to get my bearing on things. But watching it the second time, too, I also think that it sets up a really good pace to the episode, and it moves things along well. Like she starts telling the joke, the girl throwing the brick in the air joke or story or whatever it is, and then she feigns messing it up, and she says, "No, hold on, let me tell you another one," and then it cuts immediately to her in the bank. Starting the bank robbery. And I really liked that transition, that editing choice. So I don't know. I really, you know, I wouldn't say this improves over the kind of historical introductions that we've got from the previous episodes, but as kind of a framing device for one episode. I mean, I don't want them all to be like this, but I thought it was kind of clever and worked for me. And you get a lot of that bitterness and hard-edgedness from Laurie over the course of this joke, which of course you see more of in the actual plot. But I was a fan. It worked for me. And also just the little world building things, like you already mentioned, like a phone booth where you can leave voicemails to Mars for Dr. Manhattan. That's great. I mean, it's just, I love it. And it's something that's so old hat that it's not even cool anymore. It's just, you know, there's graffiti all over the inside of it. It looks kind of dank. Like the idea of leaving a voicemail for God, for all intents and purposes, it isn't even a big deal anymore. So I don't know. I kind of had I don't know. I had fun with the whole thing, really.
Without talking about the end, it's like it's the long joke. It's the long way to go for, I don't know, the punchline, I guess. I didn't dislike it. It's not my favorite part of the episode, though. It's I'm happy it's there. I think it does lend some really good notes to the whole episode, but it's I don't know. It's not my favorite part.
All right, so we start the episode with meeting Lori as she executes this fake bank robbery. Lori is an FBI agent that specializes in apprehending costumed vigilantes. The bank robbery is a ruse to lure in a vigilante known as the Shadow, which they do, and they apprehend him. She gets some heckling from the general public as they are not terribly pleased with the law enforcement taking down this quote-unquote hero. She says he's not a hero, he's a fucking joke. So Lori pretty vindictive right out of the gate. So I don't think there's a lot to talk about here with this scene, but interesting introduction to Lori, Christian.
Yeah, I think it's fun. And again, I think you get a lot of that character really quickly. I love how that scene ends with the guy asking, how did you know his armor would stop the bullets? She just doesn't answer. It's like that. Yep, that's pretty great. I also like that the Shadow is, very clearly a Batman.
I thought it was Batman. They flash him like for half a second, and I was like, was that fucking Batman?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for a second he almost like, wait a second, Bruce Wayne, is this happening? what's going on here?
And he looked like some like middle-aged like a guy who just didn't shave too, and I don't know,
somebody's dad. Yeah.
Definitely older, not quite Dark Knight Returns Batman, but getting there. But also, I think it's over the course of the first part of the phone call and this is a broken record thing, no pun intended, but the music fucking rules. I think this is the best music so far we've gotten. And I didn't look at the track list, but what I would refer to as Lori's theme, like every time we cut to Lori, you had that piece of music, that same piece of music that played. This fantastic. Just like butter melting onto my ears in a good way. I don't know whatever I was going with that, but good. So good. I love the music so much. It's a fun scene, but that music really sealed the deal for me.
Yep, great stuff. We head over to Lori's apartment. She throws on a little Devo, gets out her metal suitcase, and the first time we watched that, of course, we're going, I wonder what's in that suitcase. Before she gets a chance to open it, there's a knock on the door. It is Senator Keene. He has stopped by to tell her that he has asked the Bureau to send her to Tulsa to work on the Judd Crawford hanging. Thinks it's based on the method that it's probably involving a vigilante somehow. So she's going to be headed there. We see her feed a mouse to the owl. All right, this is the big question for me in this scene. What the fuck is the owl? What's going on with the owl?
What's up with the owl?
And why? Because
named who?
Named who?
Yeah.
The senator says specifically, as he's trying to leverage her a bit, that he can pardon anything if he's the president, and he might be able to help her let the owl out of the cage. So, I mean, without that line, I mean, we know what the symbolism of her having an owl is.
Right.
And then there's that line, and I'm like, okay, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a nod to vigilantism, but could that be what they're talking? I mean, we have like Archie working with the police, so is this like a nod? I don't know, but she hates vigilantes, so that wouldn't entice her, right? Unless it's a specific person. Like, is this like a literal like Dan reference? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really sure where that could be going. Like, on its surface, it seems like he's saying like, oh, like, well, I could make, things that aren't possible right now, I can make them possible. Like,
or was it a quid pro quo?
Right, but as like making masked, I don't know. The thing that I thought plainly was making masked people, able to kind of come out of hiding, but that doesn't really make sense in context. So I don't know what else you could be talking about. Also, this makes more sense later in the episode, but this is what I'd be referring back to anyway. I don't think we see like the actual end of this conversation, but should we take it that part of the conversation that maybe we don't see includes, or maybe it's just it is spoken, not spoken, but agreed upon here, what's going to happen at the funeral later, because they're both in on it, right? Like, and this is where they assumingly they make that kind of agreement. Or did you guys not read it that way?
I don't know, I read it quite like that, especially with the funeral part. But
all right.
I just hadn't thought of it.
I don't know. Keen for sure seems like he just has like a shit-eating grin that whole time later in the episode, that it makes it feel obvious to me that he was in on that whole thing. And then I was just trying to piece it together, and I was like, well, he had that conversation with Lori, so maybe, and that's why Lori, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think it stems from this conversation, either something unspoken here, or maybe we don't see as part of this conversation, to lead to them kind of having some type of agreement, even potentially based on what Eric was posing the question about. Whatever Keen is offering or hinting at, maybe what her end of the deal is to do what she did as far as killing that Rorschach mask guy.
Yeah, that I didn't think of it that angle. I felt like I guess I felt like she would be outside of the conspiracy, but now that you say that, that makes sense, because her just hauling off and shooting that guy in the head did not seem right in context to me. So,
right.
Yeah, so you're probably right.
And we all know that Keen is full of shit, like
Absolutely.
For sure. Like that's pretty well advertised. So I don't know. It seemed like they must have had some kind of agreement there, and that's what problem. That's why I was thinking a lot about this conversation.
Not that I was just gonna say it kind of messes with everything I was thinking about in that scene.
Yeah, I'm just not that she's like one of my favorite characters, but that would definitely bum me out if Lori is totally just a bad guy in this. That would be kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. We know her tone, we know her like demeanor, but I'm not sure if we know explicitly her alliances, and maybe even if she does have some kind of agreement with Keen, maybe she is still kind of blazing her own path, and that's a means to an end. And we'll see whenever we figure out whatever the hell she's going to get in return, if that is the case. Because I think that could be possible without it necessarily mean she's, a quote unquote villain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the other thing we get from this scene is it does explain to us that the senator is probably part of the brain trust that came up with the cops in masks thing. It only exists either in Tulsa or in Oklahoma itself, one or the other, but it's the only place it goes on. DOPA, that was pretty clutch. DOPA.
Yeah. You called it DOPA?
Something Police Act. I forget what the DO means, but yeah, apparently a lot of cities in the country are interested in taking it on. It's kind of the linchpin, it seems, of Keen's presidential run. So yeah, so we're all deep in it there, I guess.
Defending our police act, is that what it was?
Yeah, something like that. Sounds about right. So we move from her apartment to the FBI meeting, where we're getting background on the killing, meeting a couple of new people here, I guess, or just one of significance. I don't know if the boss is going to come back to do much, but and I didn't write that guy's name down. Our new agent friend that reminds me of the guy from Silicon Valley. What is his name?
Oh, Petey.
Petey. Okay, so yep.
Yeah, he reminds me of the main guy from Silicon Valley as well.
Oh, nice. So we get that guy. Not much else to the scene, I don't believe. Just me. Well, she demands the FBI is going to send a bunch of people to Tulsa, and she just says, just going to be me. Okay, I'll take that guy.
And it seems like that decision's motivated because Petey seemed particularly interested in the Rorschach stuff that they were going over.
Yeah.
So that's why she chose him. I don't know if that's all explained in the next, which I think is the next scene, unless I don't have my timeline right. But on the plane, maybe that's explained away. I'm not sure.
I don't think, not really. I mean, he talks to her about a different aspect of the same time period, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
it seems like it's hinting at he has a deep interest, infatuation, something, some type of pull towards the Rorschach 7th Cavalry stuff. But then on the plane, he talks about, I'm a history major. I wrote my thesis, blah, 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 blah. But I still think it could have been a big enough nod to maybe that'll develop in some way in the future.
Well, something definitely developed, but that's later on.
Yeah. A lot of weird, just out of nowhere things in this episode.
It is the first hint of the Rorschach journal that we've gotten, though.
Yep. I was going to throw it at that at the end here, but yep, Chad, you were on the right track. Couple episodes late, but
we'll see though, because the one guy says, you think this is what is it? In the 1980s, he says. So it'll be interesting to see if that's sort of like this guy dismissing it, saying it's nothing, but maybe it is still something. So we'll see.
So we have Lori and Petey on the plane. Shows her mask. That doesn't go well. We see the Millennium Clock out the plane window. He asks Lori if she did know Adrian Veidt, right? What do you want, my autograph, kid, or whatever? And he talks about Dr. Manhattan and some other things. Basically puts her in her place a bit, so she does actually answer a couple of questions. But we find out, at least she claims to not be a fan of Veidt. Who knows if she's still holding on to that information and nobody else knows it. From obviously the climax of the Watchmen book. So not a fan of Veidt, guys.
No. That's a good choice of words, because I wrote down in my notes that when Petey does his kind of like little monologue thing, kind of defending himself because Lori keeps dressing him down, he ends by saying, "Please don't talk to me like I'm some kind of fan." And he like it really puts like this negative, like bad taste in your mouth emphasis on the word fan, which I think fits with that character. But I was also wondering, I was like, is there anything meta here? Like, are the Watchmen creators like calling out fan culture here? Like fan as a dirty word? Maybe I was a little too down the rabbit hole with that one. But I was just like, like fan is like a 4-letter word coming out of this guy's mouth.
All right, and then between a lot of these scenes are pieces of the phone call, so these aren't exactly stark scene jumps here. But we next see Lori and Petey hanging out in a car, staking something out. A van drives up. We see Red Scare and Pirate Jenny are up to some wrangling of people that may or may not be in the cavalry. Lori kind of has a pretty comedic scene with these three, the two costume guys and their victim at the time. So that's kind of funny. And she's looking for Looking Glass, guys. He's inside. They go inside. We see everything that's going on in here. They're blindfolding and trying to get information out of these people, probably all these Nixonville people or whatever. And she goes into the pod, which is pretty damn funny.
Please don't touch that.
Yeah, the whole conversation with Looking Glass before going into the pod, her going in, everything that goes on in there. It's a racist detector, apparently.
That's an oversimplification.
Apparently, he makes a good mirror for anybody that needs a mirror on hand. Information we get here in this scene, she finds out that they just assume he was hanged, no bones about it. They did no talk screen, nothing like that. And the funeral's coming up here, guys, pretty quick. So she wants to talk to Angela, and she will do that at the funeral here in a minute. But yeah, the stakeout and the pod, guys. This is probably where I like Lori the most. This 5 or 6 minute stretch or whatever, but I'm partial to any time Looking Glass has got something to say. So
yeah, she's ruthless. She's ruthless, and in this whole scene as well as into the funeral scene, just really, she's like, I know what I want, and I'm gonna get it. I also found it pretty interesting how she basically just gets Looking Glass to roll over and tell her, who Angela is. Do you know what I'm saying? That she's sister. He's like, and Angela's sister night. She's like, just say it. He's like, yeah, Angela's sister night. And I'm like, whoa, that's like a major breach of trust right there. I mean, this is Looking Glass. The guy shouldn't be saying that. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think there's much harm done. I mean, clearly he knew that they knew that already, because
right,
she knew his name, and just take your mask off. I know what you look like, or whatever. So, I mean, it still is ultimately a failure for him, I guess, but I didn't see it as much.
I don't know. I felt like he just rolled over on one of his own. I mean, I don't know.
Letter of the law, you're definitely right.
I think, I mean, this couple of scenes here, for me, really nails down that Lori is funny. I mean, she's a little surly, but she's probably a funnier comedian than the comedian, I gotta say. I mean, I really liked the exchange with her and Pyro Jenny and Red Scare and that guy in the mask when she's asking him, like, sir, are your inalienable rights being whatever infringed
civil rights
upon?
Being violated.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, actually, and she's as he's answering,
I don't give a shit.
I don't really care. Yeah. Sorry. That was good. It was just great timing. I love her delivery. I don't know. I think she's really good, and her, I don't know, maybe some of the Looking Glass stuff, maybe it's it's a little forced, like using the mirror thing again. Like we've already seen Looking Glass mask used as a mirror. Maybe that bit has run its course, but I don't know. For the most part, I'm on board. And again, there's some dark stuff kind of on the fringes here, but for the most part, this is kind of a straightforward episode with momentum that's just kind of more pure entertainment than some of the other stuff we've seen.
So we head over to Judd's funeral, where Lori manages to collar Angela going into the funeral. We got to meet up, we got to have a chat, and she has an interesting line at the end of this exchange where she says, do you know the difference between police in masks and vigilantes in masks? No, I don't. Well, neither do I.
This is what I was hinting at earlier. So Lori comes up and stops Angela and her family, and she's like, Angela Abar, and oh, I'm so and so, and kind of introduces herself. But then the interaction that she has with Cal, like she just refers to him by his name, and I know she knows everybody's name. That's the whole thing. But I don't know. There was something about the back and forth, and like Cal was like, "Oh, do I know you?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh no, I guess we don't." And it just felt awkward. And I don't know. Maybe this was just colored by Eric's suspicions last episode that Cal is up to something. He's a double agent of some sort. I don't know, that quick back and forth between the two of them just seemed like there was something knowing going on between them, and I don't know, I couldn't shake it. I have no idea what that means or where that could be going, but I don't know, it seemed like there was something between the lines there.
All right, well, stay tuned for My Christian Ponders.
Hell yeah.
That has to cover I'm getting deep into Cal, guys. I don't know what the hell the deal is with Cal here.
Watch he turns out to be nothing. He's just a boring house husband the whole series, but we keep talking about him.
He's like the. Yeah, I'm not. Never mind. I'm not gonna drag Stranger Things into this. All right, so the funeral. Angela's giving the eulogy, which is basically just a song that's pretty lousy. I'm on my final ride or something. I heard it twice and I still don't remember what it was. Whatever. It's what Judd told her to do if he died before she did. So whatever. We have that, and the suicide bomber shows up. Guy in Rorschach mask wearing the vest we saw being prepared last episode. All that stuff goes down. I think it's pretty fun. I had a huge laugh when she pushed the coffin on top of the grenade or whatever, and just like bloody meat flew everywhere when it exploded. I had a good laugh at that. But yeah, interesting. Again, the first time through, I found Laurie shooting that guy really ridiculous, which didn't seem, but with your little monologue there earlier, Christian, that makes it definitely helps me make more sense of this. And I think you're on the right path. Chad, funeral.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all by that, or it didn't seem out of place to me. She gave up her guns on the way in way too easily. Just hand him the guns, like here, give it to him.
Well, you actually see her gearing up, I think, in the. We go to another phone call cut, and while she's telling her joke more, you see her like strapping on multiple guns, so that's why she's
okay.
On her ankle
put those
and
two
stuff.
Together.
So yeah, like.
Well, I didn't put those two together, but
one gun easy.
But I did figure that she had something. But it begs the other question, like why wouldn't they actually be checking people for guns? Like, but whatever. I mean, it's.
Well, they were running like
surprised.
sensors over the car and shit.
Yeah,
so
that's true. So how did she get by that? Some old superhero trick or something? I don't know. But
it could play into the thing that I'm talking about, where this is all part of some kind of ploy, and
they let her.
Maybe Senator Keene's like, "Hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Don't scan this one. Let her get on through or whatever."
Yeah.
Just kind of turned a blind eye to that. I don't know. I mean, we haven't got to I think it might be the next part, but Senator Keene's little press conference, like he's so like incredibly full of shit, and I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me why she would shoot him point blank, unless there was some like background machinations, like her. And when Angela talks to her about it, and she's like, "Oh well, they always say it's done, connected to their heart, but they don't actually do it." She's so in control over basically like every other sequence in this episode that the idea of she made like a bad judgment call here just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. It seems like her being up to something else, or there being a bigger plot involving this, makes more sense. But we'll see.
Agreed. So yeah, the funeral action happens, and then we see Laurie go back and meet up with Angela. She is looking over the pit, or the hole or whatever that the bomber crawled through. Actually, that'll be a little bit later, so I'm getting ahead of myself. And I don't know why I'm getting ahead of myself. Why would I want to skip the next section, guys? Our weekly visit with Adrian Veidt here. Wherever the hell he's hanging out.
Some interesting stuff to talk about here.
Yeah. Well, we see him in the lab, and it appears that he's making skin, right? Is that what he's making? Skin?
Yeah, he's tanning hides.
Okay, so...
Yeah, I mean, it ends up being the part of the whatever Mr. Phillips is wearing, like part of that suit. I'm pretty sure is what that's supposed to be.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so he has the mask, and he's got like armor. It looks kind of like old school knight armor and gloves and all that. But the tan part, like the cloth looking part, I think is this hide that he's treating in his lab. Which is also at the end of that, he says we need thicker skin. That's what he's referring to before he goes to shoot the buffalo. Yeah. But yeah, he's treating some kind of hide for that. space suit, whatever the
Yeah.
fuck that is. I don't know.
Space suit of armor thing with the installed glass, and it's really weird.
And my first thought when he was like tanning them hides is, he's so like, where did he get the skin? Is he using his subjects? Is that
The
where
buffalo?
he got
I think it's the buffalo. That's what he's shooting the buffalo, right?
But he said he needs thicker skin.
He needs thicker skin. That's why he went to get the buffalo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So he was using something else before.
And I don't know if you guys know, but when you're tanning skin, I believe they use urine. So like,
perfect.
Is he have all of his subjects? I mean, I guess he could be using something else, but I don't know. None of it's really laid out and clear and said, but it was just a lot of like, because he lives in this little like this little microcosm in his own little world that he makes all his own little rules, and he has, tomatoes that grow off trees, and I don't know. It's going to be very very interesting how they wrap it up by episode 9.
All right, so he puts the dude in the suit.
Yeah.
And tells him he's going to the great beyond or something.
Right.
And then pumps some kind of gas into it. Comes back, or doesn't even come back. I think he stays there the whole time because there's like a campfire going and all this shit when you see him go up to him. And I guess he's
wondering if it was
frozen?
dry ice.
Okay. No, there was actually a campfire. It was...
No, like that he's pumping into it.
Okay. I would like nitro. The shit you'd put, Mr. Wizard would put an apple in and it would
dry
shatter,
ice.
or whatever that is. So, I don't know. Whatever he's pumping in there, I guess the guy's frozen?
Yeah.
He's pissed about it? I don't know.
He looks frozen.
Or just like
read it,
ash or something? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
I thought he was frozen, but I thought he was the stuff was just oxygen and the guy was breathing, because the way I read it, and that's why I said spacesuit, because it looks like the way in other movies or media when people go to space and they take off their space helmet and then they freeze in space and they just go solid.
Oh, did he create a vacuum?
That's how this guy looked, but I don't know how this, like, it smash cut, so we don't see whatever the hell happened to him. But it looked like, he made this rudimentary spacesuit, hooked it up with some oxygen, somehow got Mr. Phillips in space or in a space type atmosphere, and it didn't work, and he realized his suit is faulty.
Yeah, it's really weird because he's got like a rope tied around his waist.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Casey started floating.
So weird.
I mean, I don't know.
So weird.
I mean, you say spacesuit, and first thing I thought was like a real old, like one of the original like diver suits. The big metal thing.
That is what it looks more like.
So it's like a mixture of
sense.
it's like a mixture of the two.
I think I was just thinking that because of the cold. Like once his helmet opens or comes off or whatever, and he looks frozen to me, it just reminded me of, like in Guardians of the Galaxy when Star-Lord takes his masks off and gives it to Gamora, and then he looks all frozen. That's how Mr. Phillips looked. So that's just made me think space, but there's no really evidence of that. It's just, I don't know. The rope, I don't know. What could he possibly do that would cause that kind of reaction? No idea.
Yeah, really weird. All right, so it was a failure. He does need thicker skin. So then we see him shoots at a buffalo, and as he's about to gut it or take the skin or whatever he's going to do to it, some guy off in the distance shoots at his feet with a mask on, another one of these Lone Ranger
masks,
Robin masks or whatever. We learn who that guy is. Apparently, he is the game warden.
Game warden. Did that guy have a yellow mask too, or no?
No,
I couldn't
it was
really
black.
Tell. Okay, so no, like he didn't, not like a police officer.
Nope. It was basically the mask that Petey had.
Yeah. What the
and he
fuck?
was wearing it wasn't a cowboy hat. It was like more of a flat hat or whatever. So he didn't.
Super weird.
And I know they say he's the game warden, but what does that really mean? Like, who is this masked character? And like, so far he's been in his own world, and I know that he gets the letter and it says, and the rules we agreed upon, and yada yada yada. But could this be another creation of Veit's? Could he literally have created his own game warden, as almost like an adversary? Like he needs an adversary? I don't know.
Maybe. I
don't think so, but it's
well, and when he's dictating the letter, he calls him something like that specifically. Or I have a letter, sir, from the game warden or whatever, and he's, well, let's hear what our noble adversary has to say, or whatever is what he tells her when he's reading it. So yeah, I mean, he gets back, he's pissed off that he couldn't get the buffalo or whatever. He walks into the 3rd anniversary celebration where he thrashes the cake.
Hell yeah.
He's pissed. Then we next see him meditating on his desk when she brings the letter. He reads it, or she reads it. It's a pretty funny letter. He returns with a funny letter of his own.
To the typewriter, Crookshanks.
Yeah. So good. So he declares that even though he's not been told not to, he's going hunting at midnight, and here we go. And then we see him get into the old Ozymandias costume, and I gotta say, he pretty much looks perfect in that.
He really does
perfectly like an old Adrian Veidt. So what's going on here? I don't know, but I can't wait to find out.
I want to talk about the cake for a minute.
Yeah.
Because we watch week in and week out, one candle, 2 candle, 3 candle. Will there be 4 candles next week? Sure. I don't think any of us would be surprised. I don't even think I should allow myself to do that as a ponders, just because now it's just obvious. But the question is so it's supposed to be some sort of anniversary. So how often are these anniversaries? Are they daily? Are they weekly? What is our time frame here? Because we see a different snippet of this every single time. It's not like a full contiguous story. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I get the sense that it's definitely linear, but it could be a year between things. It could be month. I mean, it's not a day. I'm pretty sure of that.
Do we know exactly what they're celebrating?
No,
not.
We don't know exactly anything about him.
Okay. Here's my take. So, but before this part, I believe it's before he goes to shoot the buffalo, we see a shot of a yellow flag with a skull and crossbones on it, and I'm
which made me think of the boat, right?
Which boat?
In the comic, the pirate stuff.
The Black Freighter.
Yeah.
Right. So exactly, that's where my mind went immediately as well, which made me go back to I think episode 1 and thinking Chad might be right.
Yeah,
where
this is their pirate thing.
The Veidt storyline in the Watchmen HBO is analogous to the Black Freighter story in the Watchmen comic, and that flag seemed like a hint to that. And how I connect that with the cakes is it almost seems like calling attention to itself, I don't know, who knows if it's going to keep going, but episodes 1, 2, 3, we see 1, 2, 3 candles. It's almost like this, you read a comic book and they'll, even how they do the titles of this episode, how they put the title within the world. It's almost like self-aware, saying we recognize what this is. I don't know. It just seemed like a clue of oh, this is part 1, this is part 2, this is part 3, in a comic booky kind of way, where this is some whole other universe with whole other rules, operating completely separate from everything else we're seeing. And I think, we should be expecting it to intersect with our main story in some form or fashion by the end. But for the time being, it just feels like this, self-aware alternate universe, wholly different thing. But the flag made me think of the Black Freighter again, So I think Chad may have nailed that one. And the 1, 2, 3 just makes me feel like, hey, this is like a comic booky, self-aware thing, like so, within these storylines.
Like they're counting pages.
Right. We're commenting on what you're seeing. I don't know. Again, I feel like I might be reaching with some of my takes on this episode, but that's where my mind wandered in seeing that.
Okay, well, a couple interesting things to insert here just while we're finishing off on the Adrian Veidt segment. I want to kick it back a bit to the plane when Petey and Lori do discuss a bit how whoever the woman is that built the Millennium Tower had bought Veidt Industries right before commissioning the tower or whatever. They mentioned that Veidt is just gone. He has been presumed dead because they just don't know where he is, and he's been gone for an amount of time. There's theories that he's changed his look and living on the lam somewhere, or I believe they say Argentina specifically, which might fit. I don't know. It still seems like a stretch. But so he's disappeared. He's somewhere. The world thinks he's gone. Who knows? The interesting thing about the letter here from the game warden is he specifically says at the beginning, when I first met with you and we discussed like the parameters of your captivity here.
Captivity.
Right.
They discussed apparently some ground rules and stuff. So captivity. So who knows exactly what's going on here. But I'm sure we'll find out at some point as it goes along. But another glorious week here with Adrian Veidt.
Yeah, suffice to say, I mean, I think that, us having read the book and watched the movie in preparation for this, like I said, I'm watching with people who aren't as familiar with the source material. I don't think that really helps much make heads or tails of the Adrian Veidt stuff in this show. But it remains the highlight. Like, it's like a giddy feeling once we get the introduction to another Veidt sequence. I don't know what any of it fucking means. I mean, it's fun to talk about and think about, and I'm sure, we'll all have ponders things involving Veidt, but man, it's just really good. It's like top-notch stuff here.
All right, so here's where we get the Senator's cheesy press conference where we know it's a bunch of bullshit going on here, and then we get Angela and Lori in the tomb or whatever that place is where the hole was dug. Lori apologizes for making the sudden move because these guys are always bluffing. They always say it's attached to their heart, and it never is. So how was I to know? They talk about how they were planning to exhume Judd Crawford the next day, but now that he is just a spray, they will be unable to do that. She demonstrates that she knows who Angela is. She's not the retired cop that she says she is. She asks her about the compartment that she found in Judd's closet, knowing that Angela had probably been there before she was. What was in there? What'd you take? And a little bit more back and forth before Lori puts out draws a line in the sand, makes the threat or whatever. I eat punks like you for breakfast or something like that.
Good guys. Yeah. I eat good guys for breakfast.
Yeah, she eats good guys because bad guys usually think they're good guys, and the people that help the bad guys think they're good. It's not some big circular thing, but I eat good guys for breakfast. Angela gets a little snarky about it, just kind of, I forgot what exactly she said. She said, psst.
She goes,
like
ooh.
Oh,
like,
ooh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, like pretending to be scared.
Good moment. Coffee.
Good face off between the two sturdy female characters at the center of the show here. Good stuff.
All right, so I guess the end here is the end of the phone call. We're really talking about how she feels about just how things have gone and maybe John and that kind of thing. We hear the brick anecdote come to an end. We hear the joke come to an end. Guess I get what she's going for. I don't know what any of it means, other than it's just an interesting anecdote, I guess. I think it's while she's talking, we actually see what's in the case, guys. Apparently she's...
You see the passcode?
No, I did not see the passcode.
I believe it was 666.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, I guess she's got a big metallic blue dong. I don't know.
Yeah.
Vibrator or something?
Yeah. I guess. I didn't realize John was supposed to have such a gigantic dick. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
Gigantic blue eggplant.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about in the Twitter section.
So yeah, that's what's in the case, along with like a magazine cover of her and John together back in the day.
Man.
Yeah, so she walks out of the phone booth. The phone call's over. She hears a noise. She looks up. Angela's car comes falling from the sky, smashed up pretty good. The alarm going off. She looks up. There's like a red and yellow flashing light. She laughs, and we cut to credits. So, I guess what my biggest question here is, and that kind of trumps one of my ponders. So I don't know, but
I mean,
very weird. Very
could
weird.
lead into several people's ponders. I mean,
yeah. I mean, this.
Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Go for it.
Which one's the elephant? The big dick?
Well, yeah, that too. That's the other elephant. No, I mean, the fact that the car came down and that Dr. Manhattan clearly has to have something to do with it. He's got to have something to do with Will as well.
Whoa! Wait, why? Why? Because
I think she's
the
definitely
phone call...
supposed to make. She thinks that's what's going on. I don't think. I'm not sure that that's what's going on.
Will was rescued how? His car, the car he was in, which was her car, suddenly lifted up and taken away, and suddenly it comes crashing down in front of Lori.
Yeah, right. But why are you saying that's connected to Dr. Manhattan? Because it happens right after the phone call?
Yeah. And I think I think that's the brick in a way.
Okay, I mean, I like the illusion there, but I'm not seeing that. I mean, it's a major mystery. I don't have any ponders having to do with whatever the fuck happened with the car or with Will, because I have no idea. Like, I couldn't even wager a guess as to what is going on with that. So I guess you're doing better than me, as you have a train of thought that you're following, but no idea. I mean, if it was Dr. Manhattan would use a big magnet, would he? Like a big... like a construction magnet to lift the car up. That's not. He
just phase it or something.
Yeah, he just
guess
it up into the air or something. I don't know. I'm not seeing it.
How about this? He didn't take the car, but he very well could have dropped it there.
Possible.
Because the timing.
What is that meant to communicate?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just the only thing that makes me even consider that is the timing.
The timing and the red flashing. I don't know.
Well, the red flashing just tells me it's a ship up there because it's like changing colors as it's flashing.
I don't know. I'm gonna respectfully disagree, because I think what we're supposed to take from this whole phone call joke thing is that Lori is still hung up on the emotions that she has tied to Dr. Manhattan, but the whole part of the joke in the original story and what's hinted at here or alluded to here is how John doesn't give a shit about humans anymore. So the idea that he would listen to the message immediately and care enough to have an immediate response does not seem within character. I don't see it.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But I do like the end of the joke. I like the brick coming down. That's all good. Part of this is a great reveal. It's a fun end to the. I mean, this is again a big blue dildo thing. This is a fun episode, guys. This. There's a lot less racism and slaughter and terrorism and more dick jokes here. So this is like maybe the most lighthearted we're gonna get.
And nobody saw that coming when
right, and that's where I was about to go. It's a nice reveal here, but part of me wished that we didn't get that scene in this episode. They waited till the next, because if Lori had opened the case and we wouldn't have seen what was inside, we all would have been guessing, oh, what was in there? What could it have been? And we all would have been so wrong.
And then she puts it away and goes and sleeps with Petey.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. I should have mentioned.
And the Rorschach journal is in there too. Did you guys see that? It's like at the foot of the bed.
Oh no!
You didn't see that?
I did not see the Rorschach journal at the foot of the bed.
Yeah, the Rorschach journal's there. He's in his mask. He's in his little Lone Ranger mask. Weird stuff. I don't know. Where do we go from here?
I don't know.
Maybe you're on the right track, Chad. Maybe Petey is Rorschach's kid.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe Petey's part of the Calvary. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
Lots of things here, guys. Who the hell?
Let's get crazy.
All right, so while that's the rundown, I guess we can move into the Christian Ponders segment here, which is going to take on a little new meaning starting this week, guys. I've kind of meant to do this a few times. I don't know why. I thought of it during the Bookhouse days. I don't know why I didn't bring it up before we started this show, but let's start it right now. Let's assign actual point values to this stuff. Winner gets bragging rights, maybe something else too. Who the hell knows? We can figure that out later. But this is how Christian Ponders is going to work in a nutshell, guys. You can have 3 ponders, up to 3. You don't have to do 3, but you can do up to 3 a week for the next show. Like you'd make normal ones just for the next show. If you hit on the very next show with your ponder, that ponder, you get 2 points. Since we are pretty good, or at least Christian and Chad can be pretty good at getting stuff right 2 weeks down the line, so if you hit it 2 weeks down the line, you get 1 point as opposed to the 2. And we're going to do a long-term ponders. How this is going to work is you get one active long-term ponders. So at the end of every time we have a Christian Ponders segment, you have the ability to change your long-term one if you want to, or you can keep the same one you had. If you hit the long-term one at any point, you get 5 points. Arbitrarily, I decided you have to lock in your long-term by the 6th episode, because once you get past that, it's not really long-term anymore. So, and you can only hit that one time. So you get the 5 points anytime during the season for that long-term one. You're good. You're just picking for the next couple of weeks then. So I know it's clear as mud probably, but you guys get it. 3 ponders, 2 points for the first week, 1 point for the second week. And
Fantasy ponders, I like it.
And then the long-term one.
You got a trophy for this or what?
No.
No.
But winner gets a big blue dildo.
Yeah, nice. I got the spray paint here. All right, so Christian, 3?
Yeah. Yep, I got them.
Okay, what are your 3 short-term ponders?
I had 2 that I was debating, and now it feels like a lot's on the line, even though we're not really playing for anything but to be said as winner. But I don't know. I'm a competitive guy. First one. I think that the newsstand girl we see from the last episode, I don't think she had a name, so I'm calling her newsstand girl. Right. I don't know about the newsstand coming back specifically, maybe, but that girl, that character, we're going to get a scene of her in the next episode. Okay. How I see it in my mind, this is not the actual prediction. I'm predicting anything involving her, but how I see it in my mind is we get another newsstand scene, and instead of cutting away, we follow her into whatever the fuck she's up to. So that's number 1. And then 2, I'm going to Viteland. for the next two. I feel like I'm going to cut myself off after this. I don't know if Chad has a cake-related prediction, but I don't know, at least one more, and then maybe I'll cut myself off. So we've had this progression with the cake. In the very first episode, he takes like a teeny little nibble of the cake. This time, I'm guessing he takes at least one like fuller bite, like actually eating the cake.
Okay, going back the other way.
Yeah, going all the way back around. Loop is back around on itself. And the second Viteland prediction is, I didn't mention this, I was saving it for Ponders, but when we get the introduction to him working on his hide in the laboratory, we see a little model catapult, and I'm saying we're going to see that baby used. We're going to see that catapult in action next episode.
Nice.
So those are my 3 next episodes. And then I think this is fair based on the rules we've established. I kind of retroactively want to take an old one and turn that into my long-term one. So what my previous prediction about the cavalry having some type of Rorschach specific date in mind that they're building towards, maybe based on something they get from the journal or some kind of Rorschach lore. I want that to be my long-term ponder, that the cavalry have a specific date that they're preparing for, and we're counting down to some big event.
All right, sounds good. That is your active long-term ponder. Chad Colt.
All right.
3?
I do got 3.
Okay.
I changed one last minute because I felt like Christian was challenging me. So, and that's cool. This is all good. I didn't have some of them. I think I don't know what I replaced really wasn't that great anyhow. All right. So number 1, I think we are going to see Dr. Manhattan in the next episode. I'm just going to leave it blank at that. I will say we're either actually going to see him on Mars or on Earth. And I'm not talking like an advertisement or somebody dressed up as him. We're actually going to see Dr. Manhattan.
So are you counting something like the news shot that we saw, or like?
No, I don't think it's going to be news. I think we're going to really see him in,
But your prediction is like an actual, like Dr. Manhattan is in like a scene.
In a scene.
There will be an actor playing Dr. Manhattan.
Not just a little blue spot on the screen.
Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough.
All right, cool.
Chad, we have an interesting Ponders conundrum coming up here. So
We shall see.
all right.
Now, my next one is it's Viteland. So Adrian Veidt will cause a missed Crookshanks. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. There are more than one Crookshanks too, right? There isn't just the one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There was at least 3 on screen in the one.
Okay, that's what I thought. When they're doing the play,
Yeah.
the reenactment, whatever, Adrian Veidt will cause a Miss Crookshanks to get killed in the next episode.
I like it.
Okay.
Nice.
So, I just feel like they've been picking on Phillips so much. So now, what I originally had, and don't put this one down because this isn't what I'm going with, is that I thought we were going to possibly see Looking Glass start to get somewhat suspicious of Angela. And I didn't know how that would play out, but I've replaced that with a cake one. I think he's going to force Crookshanks or Phillips to eat the cake.
Huh.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
It might be like a nibble, or be like what is this crap? Like just here, you guys.
Interesting. Interesting.
So those are my 3. So Manhattan, Crookshanks killed, and then Crookshanks or Phillips eating the cake. So I couldn't really narrow it down to just one or the other, and I think it's fair to be able to pick both of them.
Yes.
Well, all right, guys, you're gonna have to. It's time for
my long term.
Yeah, you're gonna have. Okay, but you're gonna have to come up with some rules on the fly. While we're on this, because I have a cake prediction.
All right.
And that cake prediction is Phillips and Crookshank will eat the next cake. So
Whoa.
I have the
I say go for it.
exact same Ponders.
Yeah,
So
you guys.
that's cool.
Wow.
I can
Same
go with
point.
that. I don't have to
Yeah.
I
change.
think we're cool with
Okay.
it.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. So
I had to
Wow.
get on. I had to get in on the cake action this time. So that's the one that seemed the most
wow.
probable to me. But
that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I for my long term, I'm split between two, and the one I kind of wanted to do was a Rorschach journal thing, but I think with Christian, I'm not going with that. I'm not going to right now. My original one is that Rorschach journal come and play in the first episode. It really didn't, but I do still think, and I really think heavily that they use it as some sort of a doctrine or almost like a Bible of theirs or whatever. So
yeah.
But the one I'm going to go with for right now, and this could change, is one that I've already come up with. I'm going to go with Redford will play himself as president for now. It'll probably change.
Okay.
All right.
That's my my long term right now. All right, we already know one of yours, Eric.
So yeah, I have two, and you already know one. The other one, I had foreshadowed a little more Cal action on this episode for Christian Ponders. So we had the Lori and Cal interaction that seemed a little weird in and of itself. Well, if you guys don't forget, when Angela and Lori are talking, Lori suggests, well, maybe you and Judd were having an affair, which I would never understand because your husband is fucking hot. And with that and the interaction they had earlier, I am going to ponder that in the past, Lori and Cal have gotten freaky.
Nice.
So,
wow.
Might be, well, I think 1 or 2 episodes in the future, I have a shot at getting that one. So I think they do know each other and they've gotten freaky. Lori, I mean, clearly Lori's just always looking for some action. So, all right, Lori and Cal got freaky, and Crookshanks and Phillips eat the cake. Chad, my long-term ponders is going to... I'm going the other way. We'll just say that. This isn't... I know it wasn't your long-term ponders, but right now my long-term ponders is I don't think we will ever see Dr. Manhattan in this series.
Wow.
And news clip. I'm hoping you give me news clips. I just mean specifically non-news clip Dr. Manhattan. Yeah. If they actually show the guy on the news, I don't really want that to disqualify me. But I'm saying he will not make an appearance on this show, other than news clips or whatever. Now I'm sure you could go, well, you can predict that whoever will never show up, and that's a pretty easy prediction to make. But Dr. Manhattan is looming large on this show, and I'm just saying he's not going to show up. So
yeah, no, that sounds fair to me. And you guys disagree, so I think that proves that there's some. It's not a layup pick. You have someone else out of the three here disagreeing with you directly. I'm leaning to Eric's side, by the way. I think it's more likely we don't see any Dr. Manhattan than we see in the next episode.
So he will be the Agent Coop of this series.
Except
Coop showed up.
Yes, Coop showed up eventually. Yeah.
Wasn't it? So, yeah. And the beauty about me making this prediction against you is I hope you're right, and if you are, I can just pick another long-term next week. So, no
true story.
So, yeah, I'm feeling no Dr. Manhattan in this just because they're bringing him up so much. But
all right. Let's start tallying up the points next week.
Cool.
All right.
So
now,
we're gonna do. Oh, sorry.
So, yeah, and we may need folks' help if we have some gray area like we had a couple of weeks ago. I still say we haven't worked those out. Christian, we weren't sure on you. You said specifically Will Reeves was a cape, or whatever you said specifically. And Chad said something similar. Well, Chad didn't say he was a hero or a vigilante specifically, but you said you're pretty sure he killed Judd, which would almost mean he's probably got some kind of thing going on. But we're kind of on the fence for those. We wanted to let the week go, see how it goes. We kind of threw it out there for some folks to throw an opinion in. We did get one opinion. Chad, who dropped us a line here to weigh in on, well, specifically on Christian Ponder, whether or not he should have got the point for that.
we actually have it's Christian's sister, and she's asking for a shout out. So yeah, Christian's sister, not to be confused with Sister Christian, but sorry, your sister's gonna be like, who the heck is this guy? But anyhow, so no, she sent some good stuff. She says, hey guys, this is Kayla Skelton, Christian's sister. Shout out, please. I'm watching The Watchmen along with you guys for the Christian Ponder segment. I think Will Reeves' only superpower is being 105 years old. Definitely not enough for a point though.
My own sister.
Christian,
your own sister.
harshest critic.
Did you know what she was gonna say?
No, I had no idea. Burn.
So yeah, she's not giving you the point, Christian. So I mean, this one didn't count,
like her.
but so yeah, I'm gonna go to her as a judge for any time Christian has one with gray hair.
Oh, she just joined the podcast by proxy, so she's the new judge. Anything goes to her. Well, unless it's for Christian, then.
Just kidding. We might use you as a judge for Chad or I, but we would not ask you to.
Can't force that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, she's clearly not a partial judge, to make sure I get points, even though we're blood, but whatever. We didn't get official feedback, but I had someone messaging me after the last episode. I didn't even tell you guys about this. I told her she should send in an email. I don't think she did. But can I read? I'll make it anonymous since she didn't officially send this in, but some feedback on the horse painting in the last episode.
Okay,
you guys want to hear this?
Absolutely.
So she says, and we're keeping this anonymous also, so you can, fire away if you completely disagree with all this. So according to her, the name of that horse painting is Comanche Feats of Horsemanship. That's the name of that painting.
I believe I specifically guessed that in the last episode too. So take this anonymous person on Instagram as confirming that for us. I didn't do any research. So she said the feat in question is how two of the horsemen are riding on the side of their horses so that they avoid getting shot. So that's the feat that they pull off. Their maneuver is that I think there's 4 of them, and 2 of them are on like the side of the horses hanging on, and 2 are just riding normal, and the ones who are riding normal are the ones who get shot. So it's that title is referring to people who maneuver on their horses in a specific way so as to save themselves. So she didn't have a interpretation on what that was referring to. It could be like an allusion to the first episode, that shootout and all that happened. Or it could be something, she said something like Judd was killed as a way to protect someone else or something like that. But, doesn't crystallize it all together. But that did help bring things into focus for me, for sure. Like what the whole thing that episode's talking about is the idea of being under attack, and some people just get attacked and some people, go through great lengths to avoid getting shot and protecting themselves. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
Kind of,
and also
has a white knight ring to it too.
Yep.
Yeah, and also a big thanks to your sister for writing in. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kayla.
What's the text message line?
608-535-9302. You can call or text that, as Kayla did. She texted. Thanks for the line. Yeah, please get a hold of us, folks. We want to hear from you. I planned on putting up a poll on those, but I didn't get around to it. So we may need your help in the future now that these things count, guys. So, all right, moving on. Chad's Twitter challenge. Chad, you were tasked with another Twitter challenge last week. I think we were talking about our old friend, Mr. Phillips. So how did that go?
It didn't go as well as I'd hoped, but it didn't go necessarily horribly either. So searching for Tom, is it Mison? 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 Tom. We're old friends, I guess. We'll just call him Tom. One of the first ones I came across is at Tom Mison fans on Twitter. So I thought, let's follow that one. So I follow it, and one of the first things that they say, it's like a little pinned message. Heck, I'll just go to it. All time All Tom I can't even say it right. All Tom Meissen, all the time. Get your Tom news with TMF on FB, Tumblr, and IG. Tom himself is not currently on social media. So that was the first thing I read. And then I go through and I'm looking through, and some of the things seemed like they were maybe not spoilerish, like they don't really know what's going on, but there's enough guesses that it might have like totally persuaded me other directions. So I kind of stopped reading anything. Like they got videos with some of the actors and whatnot, and I just thought, don't really want to go there. But they did have a giant blue eggplant as their thing, and we had just on the last episode talked about the fact that this could be one of my long-term ponders I might go with, that Phillips is actually made from DNA from John. So I don't know, I just kind of thought that was kind of funny, and that's where I kind of stopped it there, because I was like, I don't want to ruin anything. So
all right.
so yeah, that it was kind of fun. I didn't message him, didn't say anything, because it's not a real actor, so it's just a fan page. But I do want them to know that I think they're doing good work at Tom Meissen fans. And when this is all said and done, if this is all said and done, I'm gonna go back and read some of the stuff they got posted there. I just didn't want any of it right now. So
good stuff.
I'm still following them. They're gonna stay on here. They got like over 6,500 followers.
Holy shit.
So yeah, and they're following another 323 people. So I'm gonna stick with them for a while. I'm just not gonna look right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Christian, this segment is turning out to be everything I had ever hoped it would be.
It's paying dividends.
Chad's anecdotes about life in the wild west of Twitter is just fantastic.
Oh man.
From the guy that uses Twitter probably less than anybody. Like,
yeah.
People post on there, and I'm like, do people still put things on there? And I guess I do once in a while, maybe. I don't know.
Wringing a lot out of this. All right, so I got another one here. I actually did debate this a little bit. For a second, I was thinking about throwing, what was it, Mr. Shadow at you.
Okay.
The Shadow.
Yeah,
You're
Shadow.
thinking of the
whatever.
other guy, Mr. Oh, what the hell was the other guy's name? Mr. something.
I can't remember. Anyway, that I considered it, but really, there was only one direction that I could go. Lori found him irresistible. Chad, I hope you do as well. Agent Petey.
I had a feeling.
Dustin Ingram with an I is who you need to go track down and see what he's up to on Twitter, if he is up to anything.
INGRAM. Okay.
INGRAM. Yep, Ingram.
Agent PD.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Another fun episode here in the the Watch House, Chad. You called it. I don't hate that, so I might go to that once in a while. Another fun night here in the Watch House, guys. Talking about Watchmen. Once again, the ways to get a hold of us: email watchwatchmanpod@gmail.com. Call or text the voicemail line 608-535-9302. Pod Watchmen on Instagram and Twitter, and like us on Facebook, please. So don't forget to rate or review the podcast on your podcast player of choice. That would help us out immensely. All right, we'll be back in another week or so. Typically, episodes have come up on Thursdays here. Episode 4 coming up, guys. We'll be just short of the halfway point when we come back. We're almost halfway home. We'll see where things go next week. Can't wait. Viteland, man. I cannot wait for for Adrian Veidt every week. So look for us on Thursdays, guys. Yeah. Christian Estabrook, thanks, man, as always, for doing the show.
Wouldn't have it any other way, Eric. Happy to be here. Can't wait to talk about Viteland and all the other stuff next week. If people do want to keep up with me, I have a horror movie podcast called It's Only a Podcast. Most recent episode, we talked about The Lighthouse. And what was the other one? Urban Legend. we talked about, and my sister Kayla, who wrote in on this episode, sullying my good name. She was a guest on that episode, so it was a heck of a lot of fun. So search for It's Only a Podcast on your podcast player and give that a listen. That'd be super. I have another podcast. I've teased that it was coming out of hiatus. That hasn't quite happened yet. I think it's going to happen soon, but we'll just wait. Maybe next week it'll actually have happened, and I'll announce it in full then. And you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at another XTIAN.
All right, so you have, we touched on it in the first episode a little, but you have your 3 not terribly deep into Watchmen previous to the series watch partners, including your sister, who we heard from this evening. What's the overall thoughts on 4 episodes in, or 3 episodes in? Are they, I think your sister must be digging it if she's listening to the show and writing in and stuff. How's the general consensus over there?
You know, it's hard to pin down. I think my wife is way in. Like, I think if the podcast didn't exist, if I wasn't watching it, I think she'd probably continue on with the series. I think she's committed at this point. My sister, I think, is on board, and her husband as well. I don't know. I don't have quite the same read on them. To be honest, I think part of it might just be for the community aspect of it. My sister is supportive and listens to the podcast, so I think she wanted to kind of be along for the ride there. She didn't do the Twin Peaks thing a couple years back, and we did have the thing. The 4 of us, we have this kind of HBO Sunday night tradition. We watched Westworld together. We watched the last season of Game of Thrones together. We talked about doing Big Little Lies. That didn't end up happening. So I think for the most part, my sister and her husband might be just on board for the fun hangout HBO Sunday night thing. But we'll see. I'll try and get a better read and report back next time.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you guys at all in or interested in watching, since we're talking HBO right now, His Dark Materials series?
Great question. So I've seen the trailers. I watch HBO every week, at least once, obviously, or at least twice, because I'm rewatching all these episodes. I don't know why. I thought that show was like 6 months away, and it's already started.
Right around the corner, yeah.
I think the first episode already aired, or it's this Sunday. It's right now, and I don't know. I felt like I had plenty of time to make that decision. And so I feel a little sideswiped that that's already upon us.
Okay, yeah, well, you must have missed that conversation. I think I've talked in one of our threads, like, at least a couple times, with the minister, who had mentioned that that show was coming in November. Where are we going to watch it, and some other things. So I'm going to give it a shot for sure.
Me too. I mean, I've read all the books, and they're pretty great. It's an interesting series if you ever get a chance to read them. And like the first book, everything changes as you go through the books. It's interesting. The movie that came out, the Golden Compass, a few years back, really didn't do things justice. I didn't think it was horrible, but it didn't do well, and so they never made any of the rest of them. So it's sort of a it's a dead world after that. So from what I understand, this has nothing to do with the movie at all, which I think is good. They're starting fresh and starting the whole story themselves. So, yeah, I'm going to check it out for sure.
All right. Well, I guess all I can say is, Kayla, if you have a couple of minutes, give us a call on the voicemail line. I know you're on the podcast airwaves. You're not shy about having your voice heard. Give us a call. What do you think? Love to hear your overall thoughts on the Watchmen so far. You can find me on Twitter, Hazer, HAZER75, or hosting the Flicksation podcast over on Flicksation.com, and all the same podcast providers you probably are listening to this show on. And Chad Colt, thanks as always, man, for coming along. It's just the beginning of November, and I think we're about to get 3 or 4 more inches of snow, Chad.
Yep.
It's terrible.
Ready, set, go. Ready, set, go, whether you're ready or not. Yeah, it's always good to be in the quote-unquote watch house these days. If anybody out there wants to, please follow me at TP Bookhouse. I have 29 followers right now, and I'd love a few more. So,
God, I would have thought you'd have broke 30 by now.
I'm really trying every week when I plug my thing, and that's about it.
Well, hopefully, maybe our new Twitter challenge will help you out. So, if he's a follow back guy, hell, there's 30. So, unless
I've already found him, and I'll just tell you right now, he's not a follow back guy.
All right, fair enough. All right, guys. So, yeah, we'll catch you in a week. Thanks for listening to episode 3 of We're Watching the Watchmen. See you next time.